Okay. Um, we're doing an interview with an artillery officer. Were you an artillery then?
Yep, I have always been an artillery officer.
Okay. With an artillery officer who is deployed to Afghanistan for Operation Athena. Where did you complete your pre-deployment training, and can you describe the training you underwent?
Yep, so I did pre-deployment training in Edmonton, Alberta, and in Wainwright, Alberta. So Wainwright, Alberta is a training area where we went and did all the training, and then I went up to Edmonton and did a bunch of the administrative stuff. We learned Pashtun, we learned what's called rules of engagement, which are specific ways that you're supposed to act when you're in an operation. So it tells you like whether you're allowed to do anything in self-defense or whether you're allowed to handle a weapon, use a weapon, wield a weapon against other people, and in what situations we allow that. We also learned how to drive aggressively in a hostile environment, so evasive techniques driving, so high-speed evasive technical driving. Also, I did a whole bunch of administration, so I had to go to the dentist and to the doctor and to the social worker. And when I was in the field doing training, we were supposed to, well, I just practiced my craft, which is firing. There was firing mortars, so I fired mortars into objectives as part of a group of infantry that were attacking the objective.
Wow. Which of the two phases did you serve in?
Of the two phases,
Yeah.
the phases of what? Of the
Of-
Afghanistan conflict?
Of Kabul and Kandahar.
Oh, okay. So in Kabul was ATHENA, and they actually moved down to Kandahar when I was in Kandahar, and I actually worked under Operation Enduring Freedom for the first few months, which was an American operation that the Canadians fell under, and then we took command of that area from the Americans, and then it turned into Operation Athena. So I served in sort of Athena and Operation Archer is what the Canadian one was, but it was under Operation Enduring Freedom. So I kind of served in both of them, but always in Kandahar.
You didn't go in Kabul?
I did not go to Kabul. I went to Qatar once in a helicopter for a meeting, but I did not go to Kabul.
When did you serve and for how long?
Like serve in Afghanistan, you mean?
Yeah.
I
Like
was
what dates?
in Afghanistan from July 2005 until the end of February. Well, I think Valentine's Day actually was when I left in 2006.
What was your... Did your rotation participate in the transfer of authority when Canada's combat operations ended?
Yep, actually we were Roto Zero for the renewed operation, Canadian operation in Kandahar, so we did have a transfer authority. And funny story about that is because when we went there, we didn't actually take the mortar, so I was with a company of infantry, but I was no longer doing mortar stuff. Is that I did a lot of administration, and one of the things I did was the transfer of command authority from the Americans to the Canadians. And because I did a lot of the talking as the Master of Ceremonies on the news the night of the transfer of command authority, everybody said there is a woman leader of the Canadian contingent in Kandahar. And everybody thought it was me because I did more talking than everybody else there, but it was because I was the Master of Ceremonies. So I was involved in it. Yep.
Okay. Did you have cultural sensitivity training?
Yes, we did have cultural sensitivity training along with language training.
If so, how did it affect you and how you interact with the local people?
Well, I think in several ways. First way I would say is that I was given sensitivity training in how they think and feel and treat women. So it made me a little bit more careful about what I said and how I spent my time around Afghan nationals. The other thing is that they have a code called Pashtunwali in Kandahar that's part of Pashtun culture, and Pashtunwali is their code of that they treat all people that come into their home or into their place with honor, no matter who they are. And so there's certain things that are like kind of rude sometimes. So like if they offer you food, you should accept it, and if they offer you housing, you should like go in and enjoy it. And so it's insulting if you don't accept it, because they are obligated by their like their religious beliefs to offer it to you. And so Pashtun was something they talked to us about a lot, and so I kind of learned about that and what that meant to them. And then also, I think the segregation of the women and the men, women, men, and children, which is very different than it is in Canada. So having that understanding before I went there, so I didn't, I wasn't like shocked, and I didn't react kind of aggressively or like outwardly about it when I saw it.
Oh, wow. Did you interact with the local Afghan population or the National Army or the civil authorities?
I did. I interacted with all of them. I interacted with the education minister in the Kandahar province, because we did an outreach program for all of the girls in the schools of Kandahar when they were still in the schools. We did a contest, excuse me, which was a sewing contest. And so we went to all the schools, and the Minister of Education was a woman, and she took us around, and we did that. I interacted with the Afghan National Police. We did a lot of patrols with them. They also came with us when we went on patrols. So when we did security details, when we did medical outreach, and we had tents set up with doctors inside to give medical help. I would do security with the Afghan National Police in that area to make sure that everyone was safe while they went in and got help. And they also help with like the screening of people. Most of the Afghan National Police are men, so when the women and children wanted to go in, that was the one who did the, I don't know what you call it, it's like when you do, you check them to make sure that they're not carrying anything, so like what they do at the airport for you.
Like a pat down?
Yeah, a pat down, yeah, and to do that for the women and children.
Oh, not the men.
No. We had an interpreter also. And the guy who was the Ministry of Interior, he lived in the same compound as us, and so he was like a kind of a political advisor to us, between him and the governor of Kandahar.
Oh. How did the threat level in your operational area dictate your unit's rules of engagement?
I think it directly dictated them, because when we went on what's called a strategic reconnaissance, so before you actually deploy and before you actually figure out what it is that you're going to take, you kind of have an idea, and so you go there to see how is that going to look for you. On that strategic reconnaissance, 2 IEDs went off on the convoy that was visiting, and so because of that, understanding that the threat was already high before we got there, then the rules of engagement that we had were based on that. And then when we arrived there for the initial recce, so you do strategic recce where it goes up and you tell Ottawa what you saw, and then you do one to decide like, okay, this is the compound that we're going to stay in, because I didn't stay in Kandahar Airfield, I stayed in a compound in the city. Then in that recce, they got bombed, like with mortared in the compound itself. So when we arrived, it was a very strong rules of engagement posture for us.
Oh, wow. Okay. Was your mental stamina affected by intense hot weather?
I think most people's are, but I don't know, it didn't really bother me, but it was really hot. And I remember when we first arrived there that, you couldn't drink enough water because it was so hot and you just were sweating all the time. And that was like in July, which is actually very hot. And then when I remember in January one day, I said to somebody who was working beside me, and I had on my t-shirt that we wear, then a combat shirt, then a fleece, and I had the fleece all done up, and I said, I wonder if it's warm enough to take off my fleece yet. And so then I looked over and it was 27 degrees Celsius, and then I thought, okay, maybe it's warm enough to take my fleece off now. So you get used to it after a while, like your body does, but it tires you out fast, and so you don't really want to be tired out easily, because you have to be alert, especially if you're out driving around in the city.
Oh, awesome. Are there any specific smells or sounds that instantly bring you back there?
Yes. Do you want me to give you a graphic warning on that? Because,
No.
okay. So when I was a kid, I grew up on a farm and we had sheep, and the sheep were sheep that my dad showed at shows, kind of like you have dog shows and cat shows. Well, there are sheep shows too. And when you show your sheep, you have to show the sheep with a cut tail. So lambs are born with a really long tail, but you have a coccyx on the lamb, and then you have the tail, and there's a little space right here, and so in that space is generally where you want to cut the tail off. So a long time ago, and they've kind of evolved into using elastics now that you put in that little space between the two cartilage pieces, and then it just falls off. But a long time ago, used a hot iron and you cauterized it with the iron. But it makes a smell of burning flesh and burning wool. And so we did this every year at home. So when I was in Afghanistan, when there were IEDs that went off and people who were involved in those IEDs, it had that very same smell of like burning hair and flesh. So whenever I smell that smell, I think of two things. I think of Afghanistan and burning lamb's tails. And sounds like, I don't know, I'm an artillery officer, so there were lots of bombs going off, but as an artillery officer, like you kind of hear that all the time in your training. So I know for some, when I first got back, every loud noise I heard, like I literally dove to the floor, which was kind of disconcerting for people who are around me when I first got back, because they were not in that same situation. I did it with your great-grandmother actually when I was visiting, and there was a car that backfired while she was showing me pictures of your dad. And I just like dropped to the floor with my hands over my head, and no one else did, and it was very awkward. So there's like a reintegration period where those noises kind of sit with you, but as an artillery officer, like those noises didn't faze me too much there.
Oh, wow. What's a small daily routine that kept you feeling human?
Two things. One, I worked out every morning at 6 a.m. Well, usually we didn't go on patrols super early because you didn't want to go on patrols near first light. And the other was that they had these chocolate bars that were called coconut something. Anyway, they're like come in two little bars, and they're coconut bars, and they kept them in the freezer because it was so hot that they couldn't keep chocolate bars out. And so I would have one every day at lunch.
Wow. How did your unit process the loss or injury of a comrade?
I think like that's a very personal question, like how people process it themselves, but as a unit, generally the section commander and the company sergeant major, if someone died, would kind of go to that group of people who were involved in that incident and talk to them before anybody else did, just to like make sure that they were okay. And then the Padre would come and talk, and then we would, have a parade, and all of this would be before the what they call ramp ceremony, which was basically when soldiers have to carry the remains of that soldier in a coffin up onto the plane to be taken wherever it's going to go, whether it be to Germany and Ramstein or if it be directly back to Canada. So like we were dry, obviously, because it was a hostile environment, so that means we didn't consume any alcohol at all. It was not allowed. But I think there were a few times that I did see on that time that if there was some alcohol that was confiscated that people found that others had brought, and the company sergeant major kept that, and when there were these difficult moments, he would like have these talks with his company, and everybody he was talking to would take a shot of alcohol, whether it was to be like, I'm raising my glass to that person who died, or just like to calm their nerves, or maybe both.
What did you miss most about Canada?
It's funny you say that, because I actually was interviewed when I came back, and I don't know if it was CTV or CBC, I can't remember, one of them came and interviewed me because I was only like one of 5 women who were there, and there was only 2 combat arms people. The others were clerks and a doctor. So we were the only ones who really went out a lot, so they were very interested in like what my experience was. But they said like, well, what is the one thing that you missed about Canada and being home? And like I said, well, besides my husband, because I was married at the time, fresh milk. But then they cut out besides my husband, and then it sounded like I said fresh milk is the only thing I missed about home. So it sounded terrible, like I was a bad wife. But yeah, fresh milk, because there is no fresh milk there. Although I did have an in with an American S1, which was their administration officer, and their XO, and they had a Chinook that went from Dubai with Apaches.
A helicopter or a boat?
Chinook is like a big helicopter. Yeah. And they used to bring yogurt from Dubai, from the United Arab Emirates. And so a couple times, because I did them some favors, they brought me some fresh yogurt from Dubai. Not me, but cases of it to the compound. So I was able to give it to other people too.
That's so nice. What do you wish civilian Canadians understood about your experience?
What do I wish they understood? I wish they understood that we're very blessed here, and sometimes it takes seeing some really horrible things to realize like how good you have it here, and why that is important is because it makes it all the more valuable to me to preserve what we have here, preserve our freedom, preserve our abilities to do so many things. I wish that people realize like how important it is to give your children freedom to learn, and freedom to play, and freedom to grow and to be children, and not be enslaved to marriage and molestation at the ages of 9 and 10, and to be able to be educated and not have to like go and work or stay in the house locked in at the age of 10 or 11. Yeah, I think I would want them to know that we are very lucky here, and we should really fight for those to stay as part of our culture here.
Okay. Thank you. But can you say your name, your full name, and your rank?
Yeah, my name is Lieutenant Colonel Lisa Mildred Nodwell.
Oh, okay.